4890, it's finally here. Check it out. You guys have been waiting for it. Here's the RV790, the newest card from ATI. Very, very nice performer. Very high frequencies. It's basically pretty much the RV770 GPU, which is the same thing. It's 55 nm, but somehow they managed to get this card with much higher frequencies. They managed to overclock it, and they gave it a lot of overclocking headroom. So a very, very powerful card. Your 4870s were clocked at 750. These things are clocked at 850. So an entire 100 megahertz jump, and they're very, very overclockable. So even if it's only 850, it's very easy to get to 900, 925, 950, maybe even higher. Now, just so you know, XFX has 3 cards out right now. This is the standard edition. This is the fastest card. This is the XXX edition. This is like their top dog, but very expensive. Not very expensive, but expensive. And then here is the Extreme edition. This is the more like standard overclocked. This is actually this is 850. This is 875, and this is 900 megahertz GPU. Okay, did you see that? Okay, 875, 900. And 850 down here at the bottom. So today we're looking at this one because that's the cheaper one, and most of you guys out there know how to overclock your graphics cards. So you might want to just get this one because it's a little bit more affordable and do it yourself. 850. It wasn't hard to get this thing over 900 megahertz overclocking it. You use the ATI Catalyst control panel. You go to ATI Overdrive and you go crank it up. Problem solved. So a really good card. Let's talk a little bit about it. Now, you already know the shaders and the GPU and an ATI video card 4800 series are always the same. They're matched. So 850 for the GPU, 850 for the ALUs, and then on top of that, the memory is clocked very high as well. Again, it's a gigabyte of GDDR5. It's 1024 megabyte, and that is clocked at 3900 megahertz. That is really fast. 3.9 gigahertz memory is no joke. So lots of good stuff. You can overclock that as well. Now, besides that, let's give you a quick look at what's in the box. You get a composite cable. So this will do 1080i out to your TV, no audio with RCA jacks. This is, I'm sorry, not composite, this is component. You also get this. This is a 6-pin, 4-pin Molex, a 6-pin PCI Express. You get 2 of those because you do need 6-pin PCI Expresses for this card. You get the HDMI to DVI dongle, very useful since this card does support UVD, which is the Unified Video Decoder. So you can do HDCP. You got HDMI support, 7.1 channel lossless audio can go through here as well. It'll do Blu-rays and 1080p content off the web, no problem. You also get this 15-pin D-sub to DVI converter, and you also get, of course, your very famous CrossFire Bridge, which, because you can run these in CrossFire. Pretty much you just snap these on right here, and boom, you link 2 cards together, and now you got double the performing power. CrossFire scales very well, and so you can increase your performance and from anywhere from 40 to probably close to 95% increase in performance by doing that. DirectX 10.1, shader model 4.1, OpenGL 3.0, which is new. It does utilize that. It's got 2 dual link DVIs. Those are right there. Those will do 2560 by 1600 lines of resolution. Those are using 400 megahertz RAM DACs. You also got that 7-pin digital S video right there to use. You got 40 texture units on here and 16 ROPs, just like on the 4870. So there's nothing special there. Pretty much the back of the board looks all about the same. There are a few differences. I couldn't really find them right now, but there are a few capacitors that are in different places, but almost everything is the same. Everything else is a 4870, just more overclockable, more tweakable, and with better power efficiency. It does the better power stuff using something called ATI PowerPlay, which is actually a program that comes with it, part of the drivers, and that underclocks the card to save power depending on how you are using it. So that is very good, and also really cool about this 4890s, again, you get double lifetime warranty from XFX, so it's really good. And in the box, right over here, see it? That's what's in the box. Hawks. That's the new Tom Clancy game. It's a flight simulator, combat flight simulator. Very fun to play, very easy. If you're into like Flight Simulator 10, you'll like it. But if you're into like a first-person shooter, you'll like it too, because it's like a more basic flying game. Also, I forgot one thing that else is in the box is this composite to S-video dongle converter thing. I really hope nobody uses this. Why would you want to output to 480p? I don't know. Maybe it's like some 3D glasses, some of those monitor glasses in your eyes, whatever they're called, Vuzix maybe. Those are maybe 480p kind of weak. You definitely would be getting very high benchmarks with this card. Speaking of benchmarks, let's talk about some of those because we got quite a few. We're going to show you Tom Clancy Hawk since it comes with it, Far Cry 2, Crisis Warhead, and Fallout 3 on 22 and on 24-inch resolutions. If you have under 22 or 24-inch, this card is probably a little bit too much for you. The benchmarking setup is a Core i7-965, 4 gigahertz, Corsair 1866 megahertz, memory DDR3, triple channel, 6 gigabytes. but it's running at 1600 with 77724 with a 1T command line. So it's overclocked, but underclocked. The latencies went down, frequencies went down, latencies went up. I don't know, whatever. 2 X25M solid-state drives in RAID 0, Vista Ultimate 64-bit, and that's it. That's pretty much how we did it. So here are those benchmarks at 22 and 24 versus the 4870 and the GTX 260. Looking at Tom Clancy Hawk at 1680 by 1050, the GTX 260 did it at 54 frames per second, the 4890 did 63 frames per second, so you got a 9 frame per second jump. At 1920 by 1200, the GTX 260 did 37, the 4890 did 49 frames per second, so that's pretty awesome. Moving on to Far Cry 2, these are maxed out settings, 8x AA, 16x AF, everything else set to the maximum. Also, we're using the latest Catalyst 9.4 drivers, and we're also using the AMD Fusion setup under the expert profile, so that gives you the most amount of performance gains. Far Cry 2, a very NVIDIA-based game. 51 frames per second for the GTX 260, 43 frames per second for the 4890. So if you are a Far Cry 2 player, this is not the card for you, perhaps. At 1920 by 1200, the amount was different. It was 38 frames per second versus 45 for the GTX 260, so it didn't do as bad. Comparably, Crisis Warhead DirectX 10 in gamer mode with no eye candy. AA and AF were both turned off. 1680 by 1050 or your native 22-inch resolution. 42 frames per second for the GTX 260. The 4890 did 44 frames per second, so slight improvement there. At 1920 by 1200, the GTX 260 did 32 frames per second. The 4890 did 35 frames per second, so nice jump there as well. Moving on to Fallout 3 Game of the Year. Maxed out settings, HDR on, ultra high quality. 22-inch resolution. The GTX 260 did 63 frames per second. The 4890 destroyed it at 72 frames per second. Moving on to 1920 by 1200 or your native 24-inch resolution. The GTX 260 did 47 frames per second. The 4890 did 64 frames per second. Again, destroyed it. And these things are very overclockable, so those benchmarks can only go up if you overclock, and you really can, over 900 megahertz with this card, so really good stuff. It comes at 875. To get to 900 is cake. If you want to download Riva Tuner, you can go even above 900, no problem. ATI limits you a little bit. Just keep going, raise the roof. Good stuff. 4890, ATI, XFX. This is the regular standard reference board. Overclock it yourself. Good deal. If you have any questions, email me. I'll see you guys next time. For more information on the XFX Radeon HD 4890 graphics card, type in P450-4890 into the search engine of any of these major retailers. For Computer TV, I'm Albert.